Moving into the section entitled Christ's Authority over the Sabbath, which is paragraphs 49 to 51. Today we're going to look at paragraph 49, and that is his authority over the Sabbath through the healing of the paralytic. And that's found in John 5, 1 to 47. And as it's noted there, this is the second of John's 7 discourses. This is on the works of God. This is also the third of John's 7 signs. So in the Gospel of John, he deals in sevens. There are 7 discourses or instructions given by Jesus, and 7 signs or miracles. And that's where that fits in. Okay, so in verse 1 of chapter 5, it says, "After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem." This is approximately a year later than what has transpired before. And then we see, you've read what happens there in Jerusalem by the sheep gate, the pool called Bethesda. All right, so let's look at the questions then. This is a very interesting event with some conflict and some good instruction here. Let me give you a little bit of background about the sheep gate. In the book of Nehemiah, remember Nehemiah was there to rebuild the wall of Jerusalem after the Babylonian captivity. Under the Persian leadership, Jews were allowed to go back to the land, and Nehemiah went back to rebuild the wall. And this is one of the gates mentioned in Nehemiah chapter 3, verse 1. That they rebuilt the sheep gate, dedicated it, and set its doors in place, building as far as the Tower of the 100, which they dedicated, and as far as the Tower of Hananel. This is the first gate mentioned in the rebuilding of Jerusalem. It's believed to have been a gate in the eastern wall. Now, I don't know if you can picture the area of the temple, let's say in this area here. The eastern wall would be on the side where the valley of Kidron runs through. It's very steep. And on the other side is the Mount of Olives. So the eastern wall is apparently where the sheep gate was located. And it's near the pool of Bethesda. It's believed that this was the gate. Well, let me ask you, why would it be called the sheep gate? Why do you think a gate into the city would be called the sheep gate?
It's where they bring the sheep in.
Yeah, for what?
Shearing.
No, they would do the shearing probably out where the sheep are. What would they be bringing sheep into the city for?
To sell
them. Probably not so much to sell.
Sacrifice.
For sacrifice. The eastern gate is near the temple, and so that's probably the gate where they brought them in for sacrifice. And that would be a good reason why this would be the first gate built when Nehemiah starts rebuilding the wall, because they had been working on the temple, and they want to make sure that that gate for bringing the sheep in is there. Make sense? And so we see the importance of that, and the pool of Bethesda is right there as well, which is a pool of water, obviously, used by the people just inside the walls of Jerusalem. All right, so 184 is a speculate question. Why were there so many disabled people at the pool of Bethesda? And we're not really told in the text itself, although some later copyists added an explanation that appears in some of the translations, like the King James Version. But did anybody find out why there's so many people laying around the pool? It's like Florida? What? Why?
It was like when the water was stirred up, like if you were the first one in the pool, you'd be healed.
Right, that was what they believed, that an angel would come and stir up the water, and if you're the first one in the pool, you got healed. There's no indication of that happening. There was no record of somebody being healed that way, but apparently that's what they believed anyway. All right, and how many of you had something like that? You found that? Almost everybody, and yet two people have their hands up. Okay. We'll still count that as a bonus point. So you're starting off with a bonus. You're in the plus already. Number 185, how long had the invalid man been at the pool? Stephen?
38 years.
Right. Any question? Yes.
I actually have a question with 184.
Uh-huh.
Is it okay if I said the cleansing water, they believed it to be cleansing water?
What do you mean by cleansing water?
Like when they water,
Because like if I go to my sink in my house and put soap in my
they
hands,
thought they'd be healed when if they were
that's what you meant by cleansing?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll let you have that, but make sure that you explain, because that can be taken different ways, obviously. All right, so we got number 185. Number 186, what question does Jesus ask the invalid? Interesting question, Sean.
Do you want to be healed?
Do you want to be healed? Did that strike you as being kind of a dumb question?
Yeah.
But we know Jesus doesn't ask dumb questions, right? Not like us. But it does seem kind of a dumb thing to ask. So we know that he has a purpose in asking that question, right? Number 187, why might Jesus' question to the invalid seem silly? In addition to him being an invalid, why else would it seem silly to ask this question? Griff?
Why would you want to be healed?
Okay, but there's something more that indicates, because there are some people that maybe kind of enjoy their disability in a way, if it gets some attention or whatever. I don't know. But there's another reason why we know this guy does want to be healed. Not just because he's an invalid, but why else?
This he's like been there for like 38 years.
He's been there 38 years. That shows commitment, doesn't it? He's committed to being healed. He's been there for 38 years trying to get the healing. Yeah.
Why would someone want to, especially then, enjoy being disabled because they were so looked down upon in society? They thought of being torn away from by God. So of course they would want to be healed because they would want to be right with God.
Yeah, but there are times when I mean I'm not sure then. Probably people aren't too much different than they are now. There are people today who enjoy, who choose to be beggars rather than to get a job because people feel sorry for them and they can get more money begging than they can working.
So is
So-
it wrong if you say because he wants to be healed because he's an invalid?
Well, the question is phrased in such a way. Let's see. Why might the question seem silly? Okay, I guess it seems silly just because he is an invalid. All right, but I want you to understand that there's more to it than just being an invalid. He's been coming in there for 38 years. You haven't done anything for 38 years. You haven't done anything for even half of 38 years. Right? This guy, I mean, just think about double your lifetime. This guy's been going to the same place every day, hoping that the water will get churned up and he can get in there and get healed. So, there are some people, and there are times when you maybe have something wrong, and finally you resolve to live with it, and that's good. That's a good thing if there's something that you've tried everything. But this person just keeps going back again and again and again. Failure after failure. Think about that. Failure, day after day after day. Failure to be healed, and yet he keeps coming back. I mean, think of the desperation he has. Think of in a way, kind of depression that he must be in because it never happens. But he keeps coming. All right. Number 188, why had the invalid given up hope of being healed? But he's still there. But why had he given up hope, Joel?
Because there's no one to put him in the pool.
Yeah. It seems like somebody always beats him to it because they have help. Now, in order for him to be there at the pool, I mean, how would he get there if he's an invalid?
Someone helped him.
Somebody had to have taken him there, right? Can you imagine? Just think about this. Maybe it's a relative, maybe it's a neighbor, takes him there. Maybe it's the same person that's been taking him there for 38 years. And maybe at first he waited around. But how many years would you be doing that before you finally say, look, it's not going to happen? I'm not going to stand around here all day waiting to throw you in the pool. I'll bring you, but that's it.
How often would it happen when like the water's
There was no telling. I'm not sure that we have an indication of how often it may have happened. Maybe it was once a year, maybe, we don't really know. Too much information except that there was this tradition. And it may have been simply water flowing into this pool would kind of bubble up once in a while. And that people thought that there was something there. But how many times does it take somebody jumping in and, you know, drowning because they're not healed or whatever to figure out that it doesn't work? I don't know. There's a lot of information here we don't know. So let's try to move on then to what actually happens. Verse number 189. What three instructions did Jesus give the invalid? What's the first one, Jordan?
You know,
Get up. Now think about that. What is significant about him telling the invalid to get up? He can't, right? He's unable to get up. He's been unable to get up for almost 40 years. And Jesus says, get up. All right? And then what's the next instruction, Amelia?
grab your, or take your bed.
Right, take up your bed. And the last one, Nate? And walk. 3 instructions, you get 3 points there. Get up, take up your bed, and walk. Now, 190. How soon was the man healed? Landon?
At once.
At once. In fact, think about it. At what point in the instructions was the man healed?
he said get up.
When he said get up, right? Because if he wasn't healed at that point, could he have gotten up? No. So he was healed instantaneously as Jesus said, get up. And suddenly the man must have felt something. He must have felt something happen because he was able to get up. And he tried to get up. He didn't lay there thinking, no, I can't do it. He knew he could get up, right? So number 191, was the invalid's healing based upon his faith?
No.
No, because he didn't even know who Jesus was, right? Jesus just supernaturally and sovereignly healed the man. Number 192, of what significance was it that Matthew observes that it was the Sabbath? Why was that of importance? Jordan?
Because Jesus tells the man to take up his bed and do on the Sabbath, they can't even do that.
Exactly. How many of you had that? Okay, good. So you understand the Pharisaical instructions concerning the Sabbath.
Mm-hmm.
That they weren't allowed to do any work, and carrying your bedroll would be considered work. Have we talked before about some of the other observations that the Pharisees had on the Sabbath? Do you know some other crazy rules they had about the Sabbath, Brenna?
If you're walking like in a grain field, you can't even like take off the grain.
Yeah, later on we'll find that Jesus' disciples doing that, walking through a field and picking off some kernels and rubbing it together in their hands and eating some seeds. No, you can't do that on the Sabbath because you've just harvested, threshed, and prepared food. So that's all work. In fact, you have to be careful even walking across a field, because if you happen to step on a plant and knock the seed off of the stalk, you're guilty of harvesting. And if you step on that seed laying there and break the hull off of it, you're guilty of threshing. And if an animal comes and eats it, you're guilty of feeding animals on the Sabbath. That's how crazy it was. They went down to every minute detail of a person's life. Anybody know anything else that they observed on the Sabbath? Of course, God said, as far as the Mosaic law, that you're not to work on the Sabbath, so meals would be prepared ahead of time so that women were not working. Unlike, I don't know, I guess maybe, I don't know if it happens anymore or not, but I know it used to be that women still had to work awful hard on Sundays preparing the Sunday meal. How many of you go out to eat, though? We always go out to eat after church on Sunday. Oh, and so most of you go home and your mothers have to prepare the meal for you.
Leftovers.
Leftovers. All right. So back in the old days, it seemed like everybody always prepared a roast because they could put that in the roasting oven and it could be cooking all during church, and then you get home and it would be ready. All right. But anyway, so they couldn't prepare food, and so one of the rules was that if you were sitting in your house and sitting by your window and had a piece of fruit that you were eating and just kind of held your hand out the window, and then the Sabbath came, the sun went down while you're holding that, you're not allowed to bring that into the window again to eat it because now you're bringing food into your house and that's work. So crazy. And so what is Jesus doing? It's interesting how many times Jesus does things on the Sabbath just to aggravate the Pharisees. Now, he could have done this miracle any other day of the week, couldn't he? So he's doing it just to aggravate them to prove a point. All right, see what happens next here. Okay, so 192. Any question about your answer on 192? And then 193 goes along with that. Did Jesus tell the former invalid to break God's law? When he told him to take up his bed, was Jesus telling the invalid to break God's law? Why? Did you just put no? Did I say explain? I said explain, yes. It says explain there. So can you explain?
Because
Who could explain? Explain this for me. Jordan.
things like that were added by the Pharisees.
Right. That wasn't anything God said. That was something the Pharisees added. How many had something like that? All right. You need, in order to get the points, you have not only yes or no, but also the explanation. So 2 points on number 193. Number 194, what 3 reasons are given for why the Jewish leaders were trying to kill Jesus? Okay, first of all, in verse 16. What do you have there? Jonas?
He was healing on the Sabbath day.
All right, so that's one reason we got to get rid of this guy. The next one, Brenna?
He was calling himself the Son of God, which makes him equal to God.
Yeah, do you understand that idea? That calling himself Son of God is claiming equality with God? Because in that culture, if you were the son of somebody, you were equal with them. And what's the third reason given in verse 43? Emma, do you have that? No? Sam?
He came in his Father's name.
All right, so because he came in his Father's name. Yeah, so in other words, he's claiming to be there from God the Father, that God the Father had sent him. All right, any questions? 3 points on that one. 194 is 3 points. Any questions about your answers? All right, number 195. Why did the man not know who had healed him? How could you not know? Mia, why did you know?
Jesus had withdrawn because there was a crowd.
Yeah, so Jesus kind of slipped back into the crowd. Kind of a strange thing to do. Huh? Any questions about your answer? Okay, 196. What advice does Jesus give the man when he sees him in the temple, and why? What advice does he give him, first of all? Haley?
Sin no more so that nothing worse will happen.
Yeah, and that's the why, too. So, sin no more. Stop sinning. Don't sin anymore, so that nothing worse may happen to you. So 2 points on that. Any question about your answer? Because even apart from judgment of God, sin does oftentimes bring us difficulties. Right? When you sin, bad things follow, even just naturally. So don't sin anymore. Number 197. Why did the Jewish leaders persecute Jesus? That kind of goes back to what we already said, but let's kind of, I guess we can summarize the whole thing with this. Luke?
He did things on the Sabbath.
Right, because he was doing things on the Sabbath. Any question? Number 198, what was Jesus' answer to their accusation? And this would infuriate them even more. John?
He said, "My Father is always at his work to this day, and I am too working."
So what's he saying there? I mean, really, what's he communicating to them, Landon?
That you can't do anything without the Father.
Okay, that's there too, but what is really digging at them about what he says here?
I am God.
He's saying it. He's claiming to be God. He's claiming equality with God the Father. God the Father's working, and since I am God also, I'm working too. You see how that would really infuriate the Pharisees. Number 199, what further reason did this give the Jews for hating Jesus? Well, I kind of already said that. By calling God his Father, he is making himself equal with God. How many of you had something like that? Hopefully that was clear. All right. Number 200, what was Jesus' point in verses 19 to 23? Then, it's kind of rehashing the whole thing. What is his point in those verses? What do you say, Marissa?
He was saying that he could do anything God could do.
Okay, there's something more foundational than that, even. And that kind of leads us to what his main point was. What's his main point here? No?
I said he lives for God and is God.
Yeah, the fact that he is equal to God, that he is God, that's the point. That he is equal to God the Father. So, in saying that he does the same miracles as God or whatever is okay, but even that points to the fact that he is equal to God the Father. He is God. All right, 201. We have some bonus questions here of observation and thinking. The 4 points of Jesus' defense. I'm just going to give these to you, and you can check to see if you got these or not. In verses 19 to 21, his point is that he is doing the work of the Father. He is doing the work of the Father. His next point of defense, in verses 22 to 23, is the Son will judge all men, or you could say the Son must be honored in order for the Father to be honored. Either one of those points is there. So either the Son will judge all men, or the Son must be honored in order for the Father to be honored. Then verse 24, the Son has the power to provide eternal life, which of course is something only God can do. The Son has the power to provide eternal life. And then the 4th point in verses 25 to 29, the Son will bring about the resurrection and judgment. The Son will bring about the resurrection and judgment. How many of you had all 4 of those points? How many had 3 out of 4? Okay, how many had 2 out of 4? How many had 1 out of 4? Okay, so a bonus point for each of those. Number 202. In what 7 areas does Jesus claim to be equal with God the Father? Okay, this is going to take longer, I think, than the time we have. So let's come back to this tomorrow, starting with number 202. And because there's quite a bit left in paragraph 49, well, we will not have an assignment for tomorrow. We'll just come back to this and then we'll go on from there. If you want to work ahead, you may, but we'll have no assignment for tomorrow. Any questions? Jonas.
For the Bible verse, how far into John 1 are we going to go?
18.
18?
No.
What?
I